There's an electronic system currently open for that.
Mr. President, Mr. Vice President of the Commission, distinguished leaders of the political groups, honourable members of the European Parliament. I should like to thank you for the opportunity to take part in this debate about the future of Europe. And it is a real honour and privilege for me to be here today, as this democratic House represents all European citizens. Human history is driven by a desire to achieve ideals and create a better future. This is exactly what was at the birth of the European Union 60 years ago. This is what started democratic changes 30 years ago in Czechoslovakia. We were driven by ideals of peace, prosperity and unity. The project of the European Union brought peace to Europe, and it brought us stability, freedom and prosperity. It brought us success, and even to smaller countries like Slovakia is. Dámy a páni.
Ladies and gentlemen, Slovakia's road back to advanced Europe began in 1989, driven by desire for freedom, democracy, human rights, economic and technological progress. By joining the EU and NATO 15 years ago, we made our return to where we have always belonged, i.e. the Western European and transatlantic system of values. The story of Slovakia that followed has been one of exceptional success. Nevertheless, the path has not always been easy and straightforward. We've had to make it through times of economic collapse and difficult transformation process. We've had to grapple with high unemployment, restructure the banking sector and implement structural changes in the economy. We've built democratic institutions under the new Slovak sovereign statehood. And we've managed to overcome a period of democratic crisis, and we met the challenging NATO and EU accession criteria. EU enlargement in the period from 2004 until 2013 is a classic example of a win-win process. The new member states were given the prospects of modernization and growth, while the old member states expanded the area of stability and single market. Today, Slovakia is a fully fledged member of the European family. We are among the EU countries with the highest GDP growth. We are a stable member of the Eurozone with relatively low unemployment levels. And from a country of immigrants, we have recently become a country registering more arrivals into it rather than people leaving it. The overall atmosphere in the country has changed as well. Our citizens enjoy more freedom and are richer, but they have also grown more demanding when it comes to their political representatives. We tap into this potential in an effort to modernize our country. Slovakia has a robust civic society and enjoys a high degree of media freedom. We are, of course, aware that there are areas where we need to do more, notably in the education system, research and innovation potential, streamlining the functioning of state administration and curbing corruption. Slovakia's story can also serve as inspiration for the EU right now. If there is a will, major challenges and roadblocks can be overcome successfully. Milan Rastislav Štefánik, the great Slovak and European diplomat, one of the founders of the Czechoslovak Republic in 1918, and our friend general, said,
Endurance, there is nothing they cannot achieve. Pre ľudí so silným odhodlaním a vytrvalosťou nie je nič nedosiahnuteľné. A jeho odkazom sme sa...
His message guided us after our accession to the EU as well, at a time when a lot of work still required completion. We went through the difficult process of joining the Schengen and Euro area. We have never come to a halt on our road to integration, as we sincerely believe in the power and rectitude of the European idea. We consider united Europe to be the natural environment for our existence. I am convinced that for us there is no alternative. We made this obvious also during the Slovak presidency of the Council. The Bratislava summit sent a clear signal of EU unity in the aftermath of the shock result of the UK referendum. However, Slovakia, just like the rest of Europe, is currently not fully immune to the attacks against EU values. This is also true in the highly important area of freedom of speech. Any attacks on journalists trigger a legitimate public backlash, as we have seen in Slovakia too. This is a sign of great maturity of our democracy and our citizens. It's been a year and a couple of weeks since the murder of the journalist Jan Kuciak and his partner Martina Kušnírova. This double murder of young people sent shockwaves through the general public as well as the political establishment. We all have one common goal, I want to assure you, and that is to uncover and punish the perpetrators. And as I stand here, I would like to express my gratitude to the European Parliament, including the Rule of Law Monitoring Group, for the help and cooperation provided up until now, albeit quite critical at times, and I also like to thank Europol for their help in the investigation, which has delivered first concrete results, as several accused persons have already been taken into custody, awaiting trial. Today, on behalf of Slovakia, I can confirm that in these difficult times, we have every intention of remaining in the group of the most closely integrated EU countries. We are ready to assume our adequate share of responsibility for the common integration project, as well as contribute to shaping our European future. The Slovak presidential elections are just around the corner. I am confident that the Slovak citizens will prove their maturity by selecting a candidate with a clear pro-European orientation. And it is my view that the party I represent, Smer Social Democracy, being the governing party, could not have put forward a more pro-European candidate than the Commission Vice President, Mr. Maroš Šefčovič, sending a clear signal about values to the country itself as well as to the outside world.
Ladies and gentlemen, the success story of Slovakia is, to a certain extent, defined by where we come from. Central Europe is a natural living environment for Slovakia based on our history, geography and culture. After all, regional political cooperation is the essence of EU success. Franco-German cooperation, Weimar, Benelux, Baltics, or even the Visegrad Group are bringing new initiatives and ideas and thus strengthening our union. Slovakia currently holds the presidency of the Visegrad Group. Our main objective is to bring a positive agenda to strengthen the EU. Of course, we are aware of differences, maybe even criticism and misunderstandings, but at these challenging times, we need to keep everyone on board, at the table, and when we need to solve our disputes through dialogue. The European Union is the result of a strong vision and the immense efforts of several generations. We are simply obliged to protect it, especially now when Europe and Western democracies face dramatic new developments. We are surrounded by challenges coming from all directions, both from inside and outside Europe. We see growing Russian and Chinese aspirations, which require a strong and united EU response. We see that climate change can have an unpredictable economic, political and societal impact on our lives. We see a new wave of technological revolution, Industry 4.0. Europe, as we know it, will survive only if it stays in the forefront of technological progress and innovation. To achieve this, our governments have to become also governments 4.0. Moreover, we face many challenges coming from within Europe. Growing social differences, destroy original social contract. We face dramatic ageing of our societies. Regional socio-economic disparities do not contribute to a feeling of unity. Many people feel that they are being left behind. In this context, it is no surprise that mass immigration from countries outside the EU has caused new tensions and conflicts. We forgot to talk to our citizens about Europe, about democracy, about our plans for the future. When they hear no answers from us, they turn elsewhere. Lack of communication can become breeding ground for disinformation and fake news. One example was the British referendum in 2016. It is obvious that isolationism, protectionism and nationalism are not a solution. Our answer must not be fragmentation into small national states with limited resources, but stronger unity of the EU as a global power. Ladies and gentlemen, as my 17 colleagues have done already, let me be brave and determined in presenting my vision of our common future. A vision of an attractive union that citizens can trust and support. This still remains a valid message of the Bratislava summit. First, a union which is united, prosperous and secure. Second, a union which is globally relevant. A union which is honest to its citizens, and a union which cares about its own future. However, we need to find a common path to achieve our ideals. So my question is, how shall we get there? First, we need to be united. Unity was the most frequently used word among my colleagues who have already addressed this House, and they are completely right. Without unity among the Member States, we would become subjects to the decisions of others. We cannot be credible and successful in achieving our ideals if we do not overcome the last leftovers of the former East-West divide. We have to get rid of the stereotypes through which we perceive our differences. Here I would like to recall the words of the highly regarded Slovak politician Milan Hoxha, who served as a Prime Minister of Czechoslovakia in 1935-38, and back in 1942 he wrote, "European security cannot be built only in the West. It also requires Central Europe, and the common democratic ideals and institutions of both provide hope for the future." I believe that beyond differences and geographical boundaries, there lies a common interest. We need to communicate, try to understand each other, and perhaps go the extra mile on both sides. There are many positive examples of differences being overcome. To name just two major examples, the posting of workers or the dual food quality. On the other hand, there is one major issue on which we failed to communicate on both sides: migration. We must work out a solution that can work for everyone. Immigration must be manageable, and migration should serve the European interests. Yet, we cannot preserve political unity without achieving sufficient socio-economic convergence and cohesion in the EU. In other words,